So we're currently on our way back to work on the Pontiac. It's just after work. I have collected more tools because, like an idiot, I did not bring enough of them last time. So right now we're just taking the highway over, next town over. Where the Pontiac is, we got to pick up some parts for it today. Namely, I need to pick up an air filter because it doesn't have one. I need to get new oil for it. And let's see, anything else? Let's not dive down that rabbit hole. We might change a little today. We might put the air filter in today. Probably. There's other that needs attention. So we're gonna focus on that instead. I'm gonna look into some of the wiring. I don't know what else to call it. Because, well, I don't really understand what's going on with it. And I'll show you a little bit more of that when we get there. But, yeah, we're just taking the old Chevy over. I mean, she never lets me down. Oh, I can't flip it, but, I mean, that seems pretty healthy for a motor. We're cruising. Speedometer isn't the most accurate thing in the world, but, you know, what else is? Regardless, this should make for a halfway decent video. Because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I took video productions with a camera. I mean, this is a camera of some kind. But I was using a real camera, not a Samsung. So yeah, when we get back over to the house after I've picked up some stuff, I'll resume, well, you guys won't see it. I'm still about 15-ish minutes, but I gotta stop at the store. That's a cop. Hello, Mr. Police. You're out of your jurisdiction. But yeah, I will update you guys when we get there. Sorry, where was I? Oh, yes. I don't remember. Oh, hey. Shh. I'll fix it. I'll write it. Don't worry. But, yeah. For the main part right now, I'm gonna pull the shaker off. And bottom of the air cleaner. And I'm going to check for vacuum. I'm going to try and find any obvious vacuum leaks. I am going to try and see if I can get this to idle a little smoother. I may or may not pull a plug or two, which, this being a Pontiac, they're not underneath the exhaust manifolds, so they're a little bit easier to get to. And maybe, just maybe, we can get the AC clutch to engage, because if the AC works, oh, that'll be nice. Don't think that, you know, I'm throwing a ton of money around, because I'm really not. Every single vehicle I have bought, except for that truck, has been under the price of $2,200, and it's been a lot of them. So don't think that I'm throwing a ton of money around. I'm just buying and selling, except for the case of, I think, one vehicle, and that was a trade for an engine, which you may or may not see at some point, because that is for the Subaru, which you guys have not seen yet. You may or may not see it. It's supposed to be my daily, and right now I'm dailying the truck. The truck is a lot nicer than the Subaru, but the Subaru is 5-speed and, well, gets better gas mileage. Anyway, back to this. And, screw it, why not? So, as we all know, in the 70s, cars were plagued with all of this crap. I mean, some of it, yes, was good, And yes, the idea behind it was good, but it's still crap. It's crap that we don't want to deal with. The more vacuum lines there are, the more of a pain in the ass it is going to be for an average backyard mechanic to fix their vehicle. We don't all have smoke machines. We don't all have all the parts necessary. Yes, we can try the spray can method, but I mean, I don't really want to try and track every little thing. I mean, oh God. I won't lie, I don't know everything. Actually, I'm just gonna be straightforward. I don't know everything about everything. You never will know everything about everything. Ask questions where you can. God, that is not good. But the thing is, you're not gonna know everything about everything. If I'm doing something dumb, oh well, I'm gonna learn from it. That's how I learned to fix cars in the first place. It was because something would break and I would look into how to fix it, because fixing it was cheaper than taking it to a damn shop. And I don't want to take it to a shop. I don't. But for the time being, I'm going to try and set you up somewhere, because this is a cell phone, so that you can maybe try to watch me work a little bit. I don't know. Let's go right there. Yeah, that'll do for now. So, I guess let's dive into it. I'm gonna get into the car. I'm gonna leave it open to air it out. At least one door. I still gotta figure out what's going on with the other door. I gotta tear that door panel off. And I'm gonna have to look into the thing I hate looking into most, which is electrical. It's easy, I understand it, I just don't like doing it. Just like automatics, I know how they work, I understand them, I just don't want to fucking fix one, because it's a pain in the ass to me. And it's not as cool as, 4-speed or 5-speed or 6-speed or what have you. But I'm gonna go grab some tools, so you'll see that. Alright, we're going on an adventure real quick. As you can see, I got more tools set up here. I got the big thing I forgot to grab the last time. I brought another battery. I've got my assortment of wrenches, because I still haven't gone and pieced everything together, because, well, pick a reason, any reason. It probably isn't wrong. And as you can see, we have an assortment of stuff. That's a clutch alignment tool for Subarus. I've got incomplete. Yes. I got a box for the axle nut socket. I know I have the axle nut socket somewhere. Actually, I think it's in my car currently. Assortment of screwdrivers, pry bars, incomplete nut driver set, more sockets, roofing nails. Those definitely go in the toolbox. Oh, hey. I've been actually looking for that. I wonder if I still have the leather sheath. This is the Leatherman that my grandpa gave me. So, you know, in the spirit of I can't afford all the best tools and whatnot, we're gonna leave this out and we're gonna use it. And we're gonna put it in the shade because it's freaking warm out. Not hot, but it's warm. And tools get uncomfortable. And then they sit in the sun. Screwdrivers, hose clamp. There's a lot more in here. It's just this kind of sucks. Zip ties. What is this? I can't even remember. It's in my own toolbox sometimes. And opening a Ziploc one-handed is not the easiest thing. What do we have? That's not tools. Don't mind that. A lot of helicoil sets that were all free. Hey! I don't know where this magnet came from. I've been looking for you. Hey, you know what else I should have grabbed? That other big-ass tool. See? Those clamps. I even got pickle forks. And I've got an inspection mirror. And I have a miniature shovel, apparently, in here. Should probably go in the hiking bag. No wheel bearing. As you can see, I have a whole assortment of crap that I brought with me. So, hopefully, that'll make our lives a little bit easier. And realistically, it probably won't. Alright. Enough procrastinating. As you've probably noticed, I'm flying solo today. And the reason for that being is my buddy Neil is currently performing an engine swap. Nothing crazy or fun, really. Just taking a healthier engine and putting it in a less healthy car. Yeah, transmission's still kind of crap in that one, but it'll get to that eventually. And we'll probably end up showing that at some point. Not that particular engine swap, but how to do that engine swap. Alright. The tachometer is healing. So, multimeter. Use it to check voltage, ohms, resistance, continuity, etc. I don't remember how to do everything on the multimeter, and I'm not afraid to admit that, because I very rarely ever use a multimeter. I've used it more in home renovation than on vehicles, because typically I just kind of know what's wrong, but it's because I've owned it. I haven't owned this. I don't know what's wrong with it. We're on the adventure together. It's not that fun of an adventure for me, but I'm sure it's fun for you. So, for example, I was told, I don't know how we can see this, this wire is a connection that supposedly goes to the heater. Yes, it does, and it's wire nutted together with mice chew on it. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn on the heater. We're going to see if it does anything, first of all. And if it does, well, we're still going to end up having to replace this wire and that connection, because this wire and that connection are obviously screwed. That connection, I was told, is screwed, but it's very obvious the wire is. And I really hate patching wire. I'd rather remove the wire entirely and run a new one, because when you remove the wire entirely and run a new one, regardless if you're using heat shrink solder, heat shrink butt connectors, heat shrink soldering butt connectors, or wire nutting or electrical taping it together, you are removing the possibility of more faults and having to patch that wire over and over again. And the less times you have to patch it, the less connectors, that you have to use, and the less connections, the less load and resistance you're putting on that wire, which can lead to future electrical problems. If you have a wire that's been patched together 10 times and you're running into a high resistance issue and the wire is getting hot, there's a very good chance that it is because of all the patches that you're running. You don't want like this is an understandable connection. It goes from the alternator as a power supply to the heater box. Ignore all of that. I don't even know, but this is a very obvious patch, and you probably can't see it, at least not well, but there is corrosion there, and it's because it's been patched before. The most ideal way that you want to do it, especially if you're redoing things, is if there's a bunch of wires that are leading to one spot, and you can conduit, because when you run some conduit there, you're giving it an extra layer of protection. And conduit is split, so you can shove the wires into it and you can cut it wherever you want, wherever a wire needs to exit. Example, if like this could probably do without conduit. That might be a little overkill, but this, you've got 2 wires running here, 2 more wires here, and a ground connection here. We're going to clean that up to see if we can try and get the AC working. But if this was conduit over the wire, and let's just say for whatever reason it tries to dip down onto the valve cover, it could start burning it. Well, the conduit's going to add an extra layer of protection. So just, try to run wire in a protective manner. You don't want a wire going right across a hot surface, or right over a belt or what have you, because there's a very good possibility it's going to get damaged or destroyed or ripped out, and then you're sitting there thinking, well, shit, where did this go? But that's our little advanced belt wiring over. I hope it was somewhat informative. Feel free to add anything. I already showed you the HEI ignition wires, and yeah, I'm gonna have to redo that. I don't want to patch it, but I'm probably going to have to. But I'm gonna try and patch it in such a manner that it is the least intrusive manner. Also, the gauge of wire that you use matters. If you run a small gauge wire in a high amperage scenario or a high amperage application, it's gonna burn up the wire. If you run a high gauge wire in a low amperage scenario where a lot of draw isn't necessary, it can actually lead to other resistance issues, because current, voltage, and amperage all works kind of on the principles of water. You want to think about it that way. If you run a lot of water through a small hose, you have a lot of pressure. If you run very little water through a large hose, you get very little pressure, very little flow. You want it to be sized correctly for the application. You don't see fire trucks rolling around with garden hoses, and you don't see fire hoses sitting on the side of your house. So you want to make sure that the amperage and the gauge matches, at least as close as you can. If you run speaker wire to run, let's say, a winch, those wires are going to get hot, very hot, and they're probably going to burn up. That's a lot of draw. If you run battery wire, some 2 gauge for a winch, that's properly sized. 2 gauge, maybe 4 gauge. I would run 2 gauge personally, although it would depend on the size of the wrench or the winch. And aught gauge, double aught gauge, etc., etc. You want it to be properly sized. and try not to add every electrical thing that you can find. And if you're going to wire it right. Relay and a fuse. Do not just use a toggle switch to turn it on and off, because if it shorts, it's going to burn up that wire. You want it to blow the fuse first, and you want to relay the power, because when you relay the power, you can switch it on and off properly. Anyway, I'm going to turn on the heater, and we're going to see if it works, and if it does, cool, great. We've already confirmed it, but I would still like to show it. So I've got the heater switch on. The heater's not doing anything. As to be expected, kind of as I figured, which is good for us. We were told that this connection is the source of the problem. It very well could be the wire nut. But just on the general principle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the positive there, because it's likely grounded elsewhere. And I'm going to try to find a motor ground. And I've got fluctuating power going all the way up to about 1 volt. 1 volt is not enough to run a heater motor, which we should know. And always make sure you're working with a clean ground if you can, and make sure to retest. Yeah, power is all over the damn place. So let's try and check continuity if we can. And we can't. Or can we? Oh, well, I'm on resistance right now. But the resistance value is, when it actually contacts the wire. I watched it shoot up to 18 ohms. I don't remember all the specs, because like I said, I don't do wiring very often. I'm going to have to relearn a bunch of this as far as resistance values go, but I know that 18 ohms is probably not good. So now we're going to check continuity. Alternator body? No, which is good. And we have continuity. Something I didn't figure is because the alternator acts as the power draw, the car actually might have to be running for the heater to work. But we have continuity from the alternator to that wire nut, which means we should theoretically get the heater, or the blower motor, sorry, to come on by starting the car. Theoretically, of course. So, let's hope, let's pray, and remember, false hope is still hope, and misplaced faith is, well, still faith. So I'm going to hope that it turns on and misplace my faith in the wiring job. Anything coming out of the got happy for a second. I can't feel anything coming out, so we're once again going to retest our continuity. Hopefully about slowing down. So, love that. Take that round. Over here. You know what? Let's check some voltage. Oh hey, the AC compressor came on. That's good. Maybe the blower motor came on too. Honestly not 100% sure. AC compressor keeps switching on and off. That's good. So I'm going to shut the car down. And something is leaking. It's the condenser, I think. So I'm not going to try and breathe any of that because it's really, really, really not good for you. But it is very cold. Can't remember if that's the condenser or the... No, the condenser's up front. That should be the evaporator. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've actually worked on an AC system. But the AC clutch was getting powered. I was watching it spin. So, I mean... That's cold. You can see the condensation, so we know that that's at least working. Probably leaking. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and test that connection. I'm just going to leave the camera there. We're going to try and see if by having the car on, because that should be the blower motor resistor. It looks like a blower motor resistor. Probably is. So we're going to take a look at that. I'm going to switch the car on, but not start it. And I'm pretty sure once again I heard the... Yep. Oh, why is the AC clutch engaged? I don't have the AC on. Whatever. Just to double check my readings. Backwards. Not that it matters, it'll just come out as a negative value. I'm just checking on the battery real quick. Yeah, so I was getting millivolts at the blower motor resistor. Millivolts are not volts. Well, I've figured out what's positive and what's negative. So it appears that our ground is this far one over here. Yeah, I'm still getting millivolts. Again, I'm probably doing this wrong. I don't do a whole lot of electrical stuff. But I'm gonna have to relearn it all because the wiring is hacked together. But now that we've got that figured out, I'm just going to turn or pull the AC clutch power off, because when it loads up on the AC, the car starts running worse. And well, we're going to check for some vacuum leaks here in a second. So I'm going to start the car. I'm going to keep the air cleaner off to the side so we can try and check for some vacuum leaks. Namely, the big one that I expect right away is the brake booster hose, which I will show you. Because the brake booster hose is, well, it's hanging in there. And I'm sure a lot of this is hanging in there, and I got fuel at the top of the carb. So I know for a fact that carb is going to have to be rebuilt or replaced. So let's start up the car again and see what we can see. It's going to be kind of difficult to do one-handed, but essentially what you want to do is when you get in here, you want to find a vacuum spot, and you want to spray something flammable at it, like, I don't know, paper. Yeah, I can't do that with my messed up hand. So, a little bit shaky in the video, but whatever. So, if the front got a vacuum in there, that's up. Let's check back here. Another vacuum leak, and that's our feed back of the car. Another vacuum leak there. Probably a leak at the base of the carburetor gasket. Another leak there. Yeah, this car is a vacuum leak. I don't even know what that is, but it's probably leaking. Oh, that one. That's a big leak. And we got an intake manifold leak, it looks like. So it's going to need intake gaskets. Great. All of that has to come off. All of it. Well, that's how you check for vacuum leaks, and that's how you find out your car is the vacuum leak. So we're going to spray the brake booster. Yep, both sides are leaking. Yep, just like I thought. What about the vacuum advance? I can't see the vacuum advance. Not on that side, I don't think. Yep, it's down there. It's way down there. And yeah, the vacuum advance leaks. So yes, this car is a vacuum leak. In case you were wondering. Let's idling a little help here. And it's still dripping oil out of the oil pressure gauge. Yes, yes it is. And we still have no coolant temp reading, so I'm going to shut it down. So, let's talk about a vacuum leak real quick. What is a vacuum leak? A vacuum leak means that the air that is supposed to be running inside of the engine in a sealed environment, i.e. a vacuum, is not sealed. So you're getting outside unmetered air, because the only air that should go in through the engine, or through the engine period, is through the intake, i.e. the carburetor. It should be through the top of the carburetor only, not the engine, and out the exhaust, because engines work on the basis of an air pump, just like an air compressor. Meaning that as it's pumping air through, when you draw in your fuel in your air mixture, you draw it in and it gets sucked down through the valves, which are underneath the valve covers, which I'm sure you'll get to see at some point. I'm sure it needs valve cover gaskets. But regardless, it gets sucked in through the valves into the piston, and that's when the piston is going down. That is your intake stroke. As the piston comes back up and the valves are closed, that's your compression stroke. That's when the spark plug is going to fire. If it's diesel, it's going to be the injector firing, because that is the ignition point on a diesel engine. But this is gas, so we're sticking to gas for now. When the spark plug fires, it's going to ignite the fuel-air mixture, which is going to expand. It is a controlled explosion inside the engine. Controlled explosions, good. Uncontrolled explosions, bad. That's how things come apart. And when it explodes, it's going to force that piston back down. That's the power stroke. Now, when the piston starts coming back up because another cylinder has had its power stroke, the exhaust valve is going to open. It's going to force the exhaust out. So good air and fuel in, burnt air, carbon dioxide really, and other gases and whatnot, but mainly bad air out. Good air in, bad air out. Good air in through the top, bad air out through the exhaust. Instead, what's happening now is good air is coming in everywhere instead of just the carburetor. That's probably why it's running, well, it's not probably, that's pretty much why it's running like shit. I'm sure it could use spark plug wires and spark plugs, and probably it needs to be freshened up. But regardless, that is a huge contribution to why your car will misfire, stumble at idle. If it has a vacuum leak, it's unmetered air. It's not registering that air on a computered vehicle, but it's not getting drawn in through the carburetor. So it's not going in through the top of the carburetor, through the venturis, and sucking in fuel. So we've got an unregistered amount of air coming into the engine for it to not operate properly. And when it's not operating properly, when it has this many vacuum leaks, it's amazing that the engine will run at all. Because it's not running well at all. So we're going to have to address the intake manifold. We're going to have to address the countless vacuum hoses. In reality, it's probably like somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 or so. But the point still stands that you don't want vacuum leaks. I'm going to go see if I brought any vacuum hose, so I can show you the difference of a vacuum leak and not a vacuum leak. So with just, a good minute rooting around in the toolbox of the truck, I found some vacuum hose. I'm sure I've got more somewhere else, but this is just what we're going to work with for now. So what I'm going to do, first thing, is I'm going to get this open, because I'm going to use this to cut the hose. You want to cut the hose clean. You don't want a bunch of tears. You don't want to deform the hose. You don't want to destroy it. And I'm going to try and replace that brake booster line so I can show you. Hopefully, I didn't check the booster itself like an idiot, but I'm going to try and show you, the basis of what the vacuum leak is by fixing one of those vacuum leaks, and show you the difference, if any, that it can make. Brake booster is a big one. If the brake booster is leaking, it's going to make a big difference on how the car wants to run. So let's start there. I stabbed myself. Yeah, things are going great. All right, so step one, where did I put it? There. Step one, you get your vacuum hose off. You confirm that the sizing is right. I don't think this is quite right. And this is a fuel line hose, so it's not right to begin with, but it's what I found, and it should do the job. Should. But you need to check. Right now I'm just checking to see if it'll actually go over it, and it will. But you need to check and make sure that the hose itself is long enough. You need to measure your hose. So measure your hose. But right there. It's kind of difficult to do one-handed, but I've got it mostly lined up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it right there and give myself just a little bit extra to work with that I don't need, because you can always trim. You can always trim more later. You can't put hose back. Not well. Do not connect everything you don't want to use a bunch of vacuum tees to try and patch a vacuum line together. Yeah, it might get you home, but it's not a good permanent fix. You want one shot straight connection. That's the best way of doing this. So I'm going to get this installed and we'll be back in a minute. All right, so I've got the new vacuum hose installed. It was relatively painless. You'll notice I didn't put the hose clamp back on. It's because it's not the right diameter, and well, personally I just hate these, so it's gonna go in there. But I'm gonna start back up the car. We're gonna recheck that for a leak. Hopefully it doesn't. I actually haven't done that yet. So this will either be showing you, hey, this is how you do this, or hey, this is how you don't do this. Which, don't do this. Don't do as I do. Do it the right way. I'm just working with what very little I brought with me. So, let's start up the car. Maybe it'll idle better. It actually is idling a little better. So right off the back, we know that was a massive vacuum leak, and it's idling a little bit better. So what we're gonna do, it's still leaking a little bit, maybe. It could also be spraying on another vacuum connection that I don't see. That's not adjusted, right? I shouldn't be able to do that with the throttle cable. So, we got a pretty steady idle going. So, no leak. No leak. So right there, just by replacing this one hose, we actually got it to idle better. So the car is idling better. It's got a more proper AFR now. It's still not right, it's still not great, but it is a hell of a lot better than it was. So I'm gonna try and patch together a couple other vacuum leaks here in a minute, and we'll get back to that and see how much of an improvement we've made. So, lo and behold, the vacuum hose that I brought, wouldn't you guess it, is not the right size. And you can tell by the way that it is, to quote somebody, quote a couple people I guess, that's not right. You shouldn't be able to just pull it off with no effort. So we need vacuum hose. We need specifically this diameter hose, which, yeah, it was broken. You can just barely see it. But just that hose, just that tiny little crack will cause a vacuum leak. And it can drive you crazy. So I need a smaller diameter hose because this one's not right on either the carb or the PVC. PCV, PVC, and the PCV. So we just need a different diameter hose. We need that diameter hose. So what I'll probably do is I'll just take this hose with me to the part store, and we'll get some of this hose because this is the right diameter. Well, actually, let's just not make a fool of ourselves. Buy more of the same hose, because nope, that's still not the right size. It kind of works, but you want a vacuum hose to be tight, because if it's not tight, what it's going to do is it's going to create a vacuum leak. Just like if it's cracked, if it's rotted, if it's cut, if it's not connected at all, it will cause a vacuum leak. And we're going to need a lot of vacuum hose as well as intake gaskets. Yay. Not really. Not yay. Very much not yay. Also, it needs belts, I'm sure. Oh, well, that one's just kind of loose. That one's a little better. Oh, yeah, that one's a little loose. And the pulley's corroded, so. Yeah, I think I'm going to head to the store and get some vacuum hose and see where we can work from there. The intake leak, which I'm pretty sure it has, is not massive. Otherwise, the car would be trying to run away, and it's not, which a vacuum leak can cause, or enough vacuum can a big enough vacuum leak can cause an engine to run away. I've had it happen, and I had to kill the motor because the motor was idling at 800 and it revved up to 4,000 by the time I hit the key to kill the motor. And that was from an EGR vacuum leak, which I'm sure the EGR on this car leaks. I'm more than positive it leaks. So anyway, we're gonna go get hose. Alright, we're back. It's now Saturday. I was last working on this Tuesday. I was supposed to get all this vacuum line on Thursday, but where I ordered it from, and I won't say who, but think of the rainforest down in South America. Yeah, I don't know why I pay the extra money for that anymore, because, well, to be honest, I have never gotten something other than like the first 3 things I ordered on time. It's always late, and it's getting old. But I ordered this really nice silicone vacuum tubing with nice thick wall on it. 5 feet of a few different sizes here. And the reason I ordered that is because Well, it was cheaper than getting it from the auto parts store, and it got me a whole nother length section that I wasn't going to get otherwise, which is why I ordered that. No real other reason. It didn't have to be silicone. I didn't care. But now we're going to plumb up some of these vacuum leaks and try to get this car idling just a bit better. I have not messed with the timing at all. All I've done is gave it a little more fuel just because of the vacuum leaks, and I'm going to have to redial that carburetor, I'm sure, completely, which we'll get to that eventually. But I'm going to put you on hold just for the time being and get a couple of these vacuum leaks plugged up. Oh, and if you can't tell, I caught a nice little cold. So yeah, I'm dealing with that, and it's like 85 degrees out. Alright, well, I'm officially out of 5 30-seconds line. As you can see, I got a good majority done there. And I redid some of the stuff that you're going to see in the previous shot, just because I had the line. And I'll take another look, see if I can't redo, any more of this. What were you plugged into? No, seriously, what were you plugged into? Right there. So, we're going to start the car up, see if it idles any better. Yep. And we'll give it one pump. Park and brake. And already, just by fixing, I don't know, 4 or 5 vacuum leaks at probably like 6 or 7, you can hear that the car is idling way better than it was. Way better. And it is on choke right now. So we're just going to let it come up to temp real quick, or at least until the choke kicks off, just to hear how it's doing. So I'll cut back to that when that happens. I've been dealing with wiring shit off of camera just because, well, it's not really that much fun to watch. It's a lot of scratching your head, backtracking, double checking, checking here, checking there, cleaning up grounds, checking wires, checking continuities, making sure everything works. But I've got AC right now, and with it being hot outside, this AC feels good even though it's not that cold. This is the second or third vehicle I've had with working AC, and I'm amazed that this works. Oh yeah, and the horn works now too. So, I'm making decent progress with getting this to being a drivable car. It needs tires. The tires are oblonged as hell. It needs the carb cleaned out. It needs tune up still needs an oil change. And I'm just relaxing with some AC right now. Oh yeah, and the tack keeps going in and out. Not sure what's going on with that, but we're getting there, slowly but surely. And with that, we're gonna call it a day for now. I'm hot, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm tired, I'm sweaty, I'm nasty, filthy, I need a shower, and I'm still sick. So I spent a good few hours working on this, tracing wiring, bullshit. Now I'm waiting on vacuum line again. But she's getting closer and closer. Pretty soon, we'll be able to at least dial in the carb a little bit, maybe play with the initial timing a little bit, cut that nasty headliner out. It needs tires, so not as far as I would like, but as far as I'm going to get for today. But with that being said, thank you for watching, and join us next time on Rundown and Broke Down.